Hi, everyone, and welcome to Badminton Lights Out, a feature of the Badminton podcast,
where we take you behind the scenes of high-performance badminton.
I'm Gronya.
And I'm Justine. Let's dive into it.
So for today's episode, we have a special guest, Mr. Abhinav Manota, aka Mani or the God Hand. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
All good, all good. Quick introduction for those who don't know who this guy is. He is the numero uno in men's singles and men's doubles of Oceania. He has won like a million, almost as much as Gronya. No, Gronya has more, right?
Way more than that.
I play 2 events, so I probably have more.
You played longer as well. Anyway, back to the intro. He has won multiple Oceania titles and is constantly the MVP for everything. So we're going to ask him a few questions now to get to know him a bit better.
So for the guests on the pod, we want to throw some curveballs at you. So to make it interesting, to start off today's podcast, we're going to ask you, what's the match that haunts you the most?
Well, I guess there are quite a few matches, but then the particular match, it's actually in a good way that actually haunts me as well, because that match actually went quite well to, it meant very, I would say, it was very emotional to me. And luckily I won that match. So that's why it haunts me in a way that what would have happened if I had lost that match, that would have changed pretty much, I would say, the whole thing around for me.
Can you give us some more details about this match?
Well, that happened back in India.
Okay.
And it's I wouldn't say it's like a very big tournament. It's equivalent to like a state level, like for example in here, like Auckland Open, for example. But Auckland players are only playing in that tournament. So for that tournament, it was only my state players are playing in that tournament, and I was playing the finals, and there were some things happened previously. So that match I had to win to prove some things that I wanted to prove. So that was quite emotional, and luckily again I did win that match, so I was pretty happy.
It's a friendly ghost haunting you.
Yeah, really. Yeah, clearly that was a very personal, emotional journey. But you did mention it's in India, so we'll talk about that. So you moved to New Zealand. Please tell me if I'm wrong, but you moved to New Zealand when you were 22, right? From India?
Correct.
What was the reason why you moved again?
Well, one of the reasons was that I wanted to get out of India.
I feel that.
Nah. It's just because I wanted to study a bit more and basically have a better lifestyle. And and just wanted to clear my mind as well. So, like going away from everybody and then, start my own life kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like, I'm sick of you, man.
Pretty much.
All right. So would you say you were like a good player when you were in India, or were you good as a junior growing up?
Not really. I was never good in juniors. And like I was saying, so I was, every time I went to play any like a national tournament, I would lose in the qualification rounds. And the qualification rounds are basically, it happens before the actual tournament happens. So the qualification rounds would be like, let's say you have to play 6 rounds to qualify in the main rounds. And I will lose in the qualification rounds, either in the sometimes second round or maybe first round. And then I will just,
That's a huge qualification round.
6 rounds.
Now, just a quick word from our sponsors. As people who love badminton, we all know that it's not just about the sport itself. It's about the connections you make and the things that it teaches you as a person that you're able to bring to all of the other parts of your life. That's why we want to introduce you to the book Mirror of Magico, written by Al Liao, a former Taiwanese national badminton player who is as passionate about badminton as us. For those who love Harry Potter, you want to give this one a read, because Al has authored a fantasy story where 3 different characters with varying personalities go on a journey of adventure and learning. And they realize that things don't just happen to you, they happen because of you. And by being yourself and spending time in your dreams, you can conquer the evils and be the best version of yourself. So make sure you check it out. Mirror of Magico, written by Ao Liao. You can find it in all leading bookstores, and we'll leave the link in the podcast description.
So with that, we're going to lead into a question that we got through our Instagram, asking about topics that people want us to cover. So they want us to talk about how to train when your sparring partner is not as good as you.
It was really funny when we read it out loud to each other. So we can word it in different ways. In other words, how do you make the most of the situation? When you trained with your best friend, like you said at times he didn't train. So how did
himself,
you how did you structure your training, or like was there any structure for your training?
Well, to start with, there was no structure. And then we'll just kind of like YOLO into the trainings, and we'll be like, okay, let's catch up at that time, and then we'll start the training, and then but no, he I wouldn't say he was a very competitive player. He did train in the past, but then he kind of stopped when I was training quite a bit. So he stopped beforehand. So he, not bragging it, but then he was not as good as me at that time. But the way he helped me, the way we got most out of the situation was basically, I would give him something to focus on, and then I will think about for myself. So I wouldn't make like an open rallies kind of thing. I would make it very specific sort of things. And then I think the key part was for us, we communicated with each other quite a lot during those trainings. So as long as I think you communicate, you can get so much out of the trainings, even though your partners or your sparring partner is not as good as you.
Yeah, we definitely agree. And I think we need to mention, like, for those who don't know, there are actually so many different ways to train. And like, there's racket multi-feed. For those who don't know what multi-feed is like multiple shuttles, and you just have one person working while the other one is feeding. And then there's
I like how you showed your arm as well.
Yeah, I showed my arm because I'm like pretending to stack. And then there's hand feed, where you just throw the shuttles instead of using your racket, because not a lot of people are actually very good at racket feeding. And then again, there's 2v1 exercises, 1v1 exercises, and 3v1 exercise. Which one do you think you did the most with him?
Oh, definitely 1v1. We didn't have many players or any other players to train with, so we'll just go together and then we'll just do as best as we can. But yeah, no, definitely we did a lot of routines, like, and then we'll make something random and stuff, like something, this is something like game realistic. If we think it's the best game realistic scenario, we'll just make up that, and then we'll work on that. So it was pretty chill, and it was pretty fun, not gonna lie.
How important is communication then in feeding, and how do you do this well? So you brought up communication being a big thing between you guys. So what does that kind of look like?
I would say, again, doesn't have to be like, can you feed me there? You have to feed me there, or it has to be like a certain height, or not like that. Of course, it's going to be like a little bit open. And I feel like it needs to be done before you start the training.
Yeah. So the expectation is kind of.
So the expectation is already there, and you know what's going to happen or what you're trying to achieve. And I think as long as there's a purpose behind it, then the communication is easier. If there's no purpose behind it, then even if you're trying to communicate, then the other person will struggle, or you will struggle to understand. And the sooner you get the exercise purpose, and I think you can read it pretty well.
Yeah, because it's so easy to start an exercise and be like, okay, today can you please feed me attack? But there's like so many different ways to feed attack. Yeah, exactly.
And I think before you start again the training, and then if you communicate it, what this exercise is going to look like, and then maybe you can break it down in the rally. Okay, can you do that, or can you please make a little bit more challenging, or you're making too challenging for me? Can you take a step back, and then can a little bit ease off so that I can actually focus on that stuff, or I can focus on my body push, or I can focus on my footwork, or I can focus on my, a lot of things you can focus on in a rally.
Yeah. And so when you might be training someone who might not be as good as you, what have you ever been in the scenario where they might try to coach you, or did your friend try and coach you and kind of tell you what to do, even though maybe your experience or skills are better? And like, how did you handle that if you had them in that situation?
No, I think, well, personally, I believe then you can even learn from a baby, even though they haven't seen, even they haven't played or they haven't seen much. So, even if they're starting out. So I think you need to listen, and I think you need to listen, again, not to reply, to understand where they're coming from. They can probably see it better because they are actually feeding you, and then, they are seeing you from the outside. So I think they can give you a better feedback rather than you trying to analyze, what am I doing, or am I doing this? And if they give you something, I would say just take it and see if you can use it next time to make it better. Or if it doesn't, again, you can take it, and if it doesn't, you think it's not going to work for you, again, you don't have to make the other person feel bad. Like you can just take it and then use it.
I definitely agree. Like my dad, who watches me play badminton sometimes, and he doesn't even play. He tries to coach me, and in my head, and I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about, but I'll take it.
So you try it, Justine, or you just like ignore it?
Well, one of his tips, he was watching me play the league, and he goes, "You need to serve better." And I'm like, okay.
Well, you're like, no shit, nothing's going over.
Yeah. He's like, you're just gonna hit it over the net. I'm like, thanks. Thanks for that.
Okay,
I'll think about it.
That kind of feedback probably can trigger you as well. So not that really.
I think it just comes back to just like being respectful, regardless of if you use their kind of tip or not. You don't want to make someone feel bad for trying to help you. Ultimately, is what they're trying to do. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay,
and sorry, go.
No, you go.
Like you always want to welcome feedback, and you don't want to like discourage people from giving you feedback, because feedback is feedback. And so
you have to be really open-minded.
To
accept it.
Because one day you might get like the thing that is the trigger to change a stroke or fix something, and if you're not open to it, or the people around you don't feel comfortable telling you, then you could miss the opportunity. Alrighty, so with that, what exercise do you think is the hardest exercise or drill that you enjoy doing that is hard for someone to feed?
Oh, okay.
It's a complicated question. Justine, do you want to explain it better?
Okay, so for example, one of the ones that I like that not a lot of people can feed, is front court, the quick multi-feed one. The doubles one. People actually find that really hard to feed, but I find that so fun because I'm a mixed player. And is there one in singles where it's like probably the ones that you have to have your other person move as well? Maybe it's like the 1-to-1 round. Did you do any European ones that were like very specific?
No, I would say, I was gonna say, if you're talking about multi-feed, then there's a especially with the defense, not many people can actually, like you said, racket feed. Especially with the racket feed, you can't really hit it down, especially when you're trying to hold the shuttles in your on your arm, and then you're trying to hit the shuttle up and then hit it down. So which is kind of hard. I would say really hard. So not many people can do that. So I think that's probably, I think I struggle the most. I would say I struggle a bit there as well, because you have to get the timing right. But when I do it, I enjoy it, because if somebody's doing it right or somebody's feeding it right, I enjoy it quite a bit, because you can have a feeling of you're a Lee Chong, where you can.
The worst is when you have a bad feeder or like shit shuttles and you just mistime everything and you're just like, I suck. But then it's like kind of there's an external factor that's making you suck a bit.
There was another routine we did. It was 1v1 exercise, and I did in Denmark at Center of Excellence. And there was like a lot of restrictions in there in the 1v1 exercise. So it was basically you're playing full court, but So for you, straight corner would be you have the front out, and the diagonal will be the back out. So it was kind of confusing, and then every time, every 5 points, you change that sort of restriction. So it was like really confusing, and really you have to pay attention, and sometimes you can't really feed well because you're working at the same time as well. And sometimes you do feel bad. You can't get the rally going, and sometimes you just hit it out because you're not paying attention, or you don't want to hit it there, but your reflexes just hit it there. And so that's, you can't really help with that. But again, that's kind of really hard to actually feed. But again, if you're winning those rallies, then you're enjoying it, I guess.
I was so lost thinking about
it. It is quite complicated. Yeah.
So do you both have those restrictions, or one of you is just can hit anywhere and the other one has the restrictions?
No, both of them.
Oh yeah, that's extra hard because you're also trying to think about where they can't hit. So you're like thinking about where you can't hit, but then there's the opposite. So you're like, I don't know. Yeah, I find those drills really hard because your mind is working, and then you're like, your hand is like, the connection's just not always there.
Yeah, but they can be really fun as well, though.
Yeah, it feels really good when you actually get the exercise, when you're like, oh, we actually got a rally, let's go.
Or like you win a point by hitting it accidentally at the right spot, and then a person just leaves it, but like, gotcha, sucker.
Yeah. And so I guess what tactics might you use to make the drills easier? So like, what would be the next step if somebody couldn't racket feed the thing that you wanted, or they couldn't remember the routine that you were doing?
I would say just break it down to the pieces they can understand, and again, make it a little bit, start with make it, I would say, a routine kind of thing, so that they can remember the exercise and then make it open rally afterwards. Things like that can help. And especially with the racket feed, again, it is kind of hard to feed, but then you can again use your hand, but you can't really mirror that exercise if you're doing a defense, because you can't generate as much power with your hand feeding as compared to racket feed. But again, the more you try it, even if you are missing the shuttles or hitting the frame or whatever, just accept it and then keep going, I guess.
Yeah. So like even recently when I was training, we had 4 players. So we did 1-on-1, but with each different player for 20 minutes. So with that, I kind of had to think about what each player's strength was and which drill I would do with each of them to make the most of the time I had with them. I knew like if somebody couldn't feed like defense very well or something, then I would do that with another person just to make the most of my training. And then Marnie says, that's a good tip.
Say it again, Abhi.
Really authentic.
Okay, that was a really good tip, and I'll keep that in my mind.
It kind of reminds me as well, because when so for us, sometimes there's more girls than boys in our trainings, and obviously we can't, like, the girls can't smash as hard as the guys. So how we change it is that we add more pressure for the guys by putting 2 feeders at the front instead of like one front, one back. So that's also another way to change the exercise and add more pressure if you don't have the luxury of having other players. So yeah.
But what are the other people will feel bad that you're pretty much saying to the other people that, oh, you can't hit hard, that's why I need 2 more people extra.
Bro, I'm not talking about the girls in our squad. Our squad's strong.
No, I'm just talking in general. Like, would you not make other person feel bad if you're saying, okay, now can I have another person next to you?
No, but I think that's where we have constructive criticism, because you don't want to ruin your training as well. And
yeah, that's what I was trying to get out of it as well.
Right answer.
Good job.
You played right into my hands.
Oh, do you want to host this one instead?
No, thank you. I'll pass.
Now, just a quick word from our sponsors. The Badminton Podcast is brought to you by Volant. Volant was first born out of our frustration with the confusing, bright, and unsightly clothes and equipment that we saw in the badminton world. But now it's so much more than that. our mission is to accelerate the growth of badminton by providing players with products that enhance their love for the sport. All in all, it's high quality gear that makes you look and feel great on and off the court. So make sure you check us out at volantbadminton.com and follow us on our socials at Volant Badminton.
But yeah, definitely communication. And also people need to learn not to take things so personally, because like we're all there at training to be better, you know, be the best version of ourselves. And we're not going to be like, ooh, you're shit. Stop.
Yeah. It helps if people don't have an inflated perception of how good they are as well. Like if they're just realistically like if someone's like, okay, yeah, you do smash harder than me, you can smash instead of me, that kind of thing.
Yeah. But what do you do in the situation where you're dealing with someone where they think they're good, but like they're not as good as they think they are? What do you do?
Good question.
I would just say like, I want you here. I just tell them where I want them to play or what I want them to do.
Like you said, the communication, and I think that's where transparency comes as well. Like you have to be pretty transparent as well when you're saying something to somebody. Like especially in so I'll go back to Denmark, and especially, and you guys have been to Denmark as well, and then the way they communicate, if we communicate like that here, I think people will take it personally.
I think they cry.
Like legit, they will cry on the court, and they will literally wouldn't train with you at all next time. You know? They and the moment they say things, they take it and then they work on it. And then out of the court, when they finish the training, they're mates again or they are friends again. They don't take things personally because they know that it's gonna help them at the same time, helping the other person as well.
That's kind of part of the culture that they build there as well, which I think Australia and New Zealand are a bit behind in, or just don't have that kind of culture where everyone understands that they want to get everything they can out of the session, and like what you're saying on court reflects that, and it's totally separate to off court matters.
Well, I guess we are too emotional here.
I think it's not our culture over here exactly to have that all like wanting everything out of the session. I think we're very laid back and like going through the motions kind of thing, kind of a bit more of that Asian style, whereas the Europeans, like I think you guys probably the same when you first went over to Denmark. When you see that training, you're like, wow, like this is crazy. But then you do it and you're like, okay, this is why they're so good. This really works when everyone is on the same page, when everyone's giving their best. And even as a feeder, it's crazy to feel that pressure on court, knowing that like if you make mistakes, then the person's kind of going to get annoyed. Whereas in Australia, you make a mistake as a feeder and the worker's just like, okay, like pick it up and next one kind of thing. So it definitely lifts the level of everyone's training, I think.
Yeah. Which leads me to like a next one where we're going to start talking about like international stuff. So when you're traveling for international competitions, right, you don't always travel, with the squad. Like we don't always travel with you. So you don't always have someone guaranteed to spar with you. Was there ever a situation where you didn't have anyone to spar with, or like, did you have to find your own sparring? Like this could apply to both Gron and you, Mani.
Well, I think, for me or for NZ people who have traveled to internationally to play tournaments, I think that happened quite a lot to them. That they normally don't have that many people to train with or to spar with. So we ended up asking other people from other countries. Like for example, especially when we were in Thailand as well, and Gronya and we trained together. Well, basically we made a bubble together. We joined the bubble, Australia and New Zealand, so we could train together. We could get most out of the trainings or most out of the tournaments. So I think you do have to sort of ask others around. And there was a situation that in World Champs in 2018, I guess, I had nobody there, and I was by myself traveling with Rika, the coach, and so she's no doubt she's a really good feeder, but then sometimes it can be super hard, or sometimes it can be really hard to actually make it realistic if the other person's. So like for me, Rika was actually just standing on one spot and then she just trying to feed. But to make it realistic, I sort of had to play other shots as well to actually play that kind of shot. I mean, a particular shot. So we ended up asking other people from Europe, and I asked some other players around in Europe, and I especially, I wouldn't say I would target probably those people who are actually traveling by themselves as well, because they wouldn't have anyone to train with either. So they will actually help you as well at the same time. You will helping them. You'll be helping them. Well, I guess I can ask Gronya as well. How do you do it normally as well? Like you travel quite a lot anyway.
Yeah, so a lot of the time it is just Setiana and I. It's so much better when you have other players or a coach. It makes like the world of difference in your training, as well as, you know, just being away from home and at tournaments a lot. But yeah, we try to have good relationships with a lot of other players that we can spar with. We'll try and, you know, message a coach beforehand and see if they'll be open to us joining some sessions, or, you know, because we have to put in allocations for our training sessions at tournaments as well. So trying to ask the referee if we can line up our court with somebody else that we want to spar with, that kind of thing. But you also, yeah, a lot of the time, especially with COVID, you're kind of limited to sharing courts at the moment. So it was tough, especially in Thailand, the times when it was just kind of Setiana and I, and we were kind of out of drills to do, and it wasn't that fun. So yeah.
And I guess it doesn't, it helps when you got a star player, because everybody wants to train with you.
Yeah,
like Gronya, exactly. You know, so it was pretty, I was pretty honored that I was training with Gronya, you know, in Thailand. So I was like, yes, I got some different people to train with. Let's go.
Total lie, for sure.
You also wanted to get Rick from Gronya and Setiana's trick shots, eh? Their deceptions.
Yeah, I got lucky. I just didn't move. I was like, I'm not going to break my ankle. So I just lift the shuttle. I was like, nah, just leave it, you know.
Not worth it.
All right, we're going to summarize what we talked about today. So pretty much our main topic was training with someone not good. No, that's not our main topic. Our main topic was how to make the most of the situation. Doesn't matter who you're sparring with, where you're sparring. So summary is, 1, adapt to the situation to make the best of it, you know, by modifying things, make it easier for the feeder who won't be able to feed the exercise, or for you as well. 2 is identify the strengths and weaknesses for both the feeders and the worker, which will then help you with your exercise. And 3, to help identify those, you have to communicate with your partners in a constructive way, constructive way, to get the best out of each other. And in the summary of our summary, be constructive and creative, and don't be toxic to the people you've trained with.
Yeah, don't get frustrated.
Yeah, don't get frustrated. I mean, you're all there to help each other out in the end of the day.
You all need each other.
Exactly.
All right, let's leave it with one more curveball question. What has been your worst behavior on a badminton court? When did you release the dragon?
Well, I normally don't get angry, but then
I don't know about that.
No, you're like the sweetest guy. I've never seen you angry.
Not on court. Have you seen him eyeing a referee? He's like, what?
I get quite angry, not gonna lie.
Okay.
The people around me, they can definitely tell, but but on court sometimes I do get quite angry, especially with the line calls, because so for me, like, I know that if it's out, then I'll just give it to you, or if it's in, I'll just give it to you. Like, there's no need to call it bad line call, you know. Just be honest, you know. But then if there's something like situation, okay, yeah, it happens, then I'll be like, what the heck, like why do you need to do that? I know you want to win, but so do I, but then why can't you keep it honest, kind of thing. So yeah, that thing happened during the match back in India, and then so obviously I could tell that they were trying to make the other person win, and there was a politics there, so that I understood. But still, again, back to my match, so they were trying to make the other person win, and then I literally just went to them, and then I just, maybe I said some things that I shouldn't have said.
Give us the PG version. Okay, yeah.
Say and we'll beep it.
No, that was in one of the Indian language, so you guys wouldn't understand. So don't worry about that.
That's all good.
We
You
can
say it then.
translate it. You can translate it, right?
Maybe I said something like. And I
cannot imagine you saying this.
maybe I got yellow carded for that.
Maybe, I don't know. It was a
I don't
long time
know.
ago.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. That was probably the only time I think I got.
I would have
real
paid
angry
to see
about
that. So I guess that's when the dragon was released.
But I don't know. I don't think I got much out of it. So I highly suggest not to get angry. That you're not gonna get anything out of it. You're only gonna lose your focus. So better not do that.
Do you play better when you're angry or when you're calm?
Oh, definitely when I'm calm.
Okay.
I think Dylan plays better when he's angry.
When he's doing his
Yeah, when
When
he's
he's
sawing like crazy.
I wouldn't say angry. He's hyped.
Oh yeah, true. But wait, well, you can tell he's had a good match because he comes home and he's like, I have no voice.
It does that. It does that.
I can't speak.
This is the winner's voice.
Thank you so much for coming to the podcast, Abhinav. We appreciate the time you have spent with us during our podcast and telling us when you have released the dragon.
No, thanks, guys. Thank you for having me. It was actually honored to be here.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for talking to us about getting the most of your sparring partners and making the most of the situation. So to wrap things up, now you can sit back and relax and watch us do the outro. Thank you for listening to Badminton Lights Out by the Badminton Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it. As you might know by now, we like to give our listeners a task at the end of each podcast. And today's is to send this podcast to that sparring partner that needs to hear this. At them and give them a subtle nudge.
Don't forget to like, comment, and share this episode, which is available on all platforms. Follow us on Instagram. The handle is at Badminton Lights Out or at the Badminton Podcast, no spaces.
And stay tuned for our next episode.